Good morning, everybody. This is the Spartan, and this is Spartan News. Happy Monday, September 18th, 2023, day 572 of Russia's three-day military operation in Ukraine. I'm going to mix things up a bit today, jump right into the thumbnail news, just because of the fact that we've all been waiting to see some images of the Kilo-class submarine that was struck in the dry dock in Sevastopol on September 13th by Ukrainian armed forces. So, photos of the Kilo-class sub Rostov-on-Don destroyed by the Sevastopol and dry dock. And as I said, and I didn't really go into detail in the video, but I did in a couple of tweets, but the modern subs, especially the Kilo-class and many other classes of subs, are covered in anechoic tiles. Anechoic, basically, they prevent echoes. Tiles, the rubber, polymer tiles. They burn like car tires do. This sub was covered in it. It was pitch black sub, and now you can see large sections of the anechoic tiles. This might be the remnants there, but they're all burned off on the base. And so this is for the ship, the front of the ship, the bow, and you can basically see that if in fact it was a storm shadow, which everybody believes it was, the storm shadow had a direct hit. Some OSINT intelligence gatherers had basically stated that there was at least one hit on the front. I believe this was covered by a tarp at one point, if I remember correctly, to kind of hide it. But this is where the radar dome, the sub tubes, etc. The whole sub is full of sensitive equipment. You can't punch a hole in a sub and then put it out to sea. It's like an airplane. It's got to be completely encased, and everything's got to be working. And in this case, clearly it's not working anymore. The storm shadow went straight through. And if you know what a storm shadow does, it basically makes the initial contact with concrete, steel, etc. And then it basically sheaths off the interior munition, which then slides forward up to another 13 feet in concrete, steel, etc., and then explodes on the inside of that target. So in this case, it looks like the storm shadow impacted the top of the sub, and then just basically decimated the interior. And I can tell you, as bad as this looks, the inside probably looks gutted. Like this thing burned. I believe if you go back and look at some of the videos, the initial videos of the strike on September 13th, there's a video from a distance, and it looks like somebody's got a barbecue turned up to like 12, and like there's just flames just pouring out, jet engine type flames. I believe that was coming out of the sub, because this dry dock enclosure in itself acts kind of like a barbecue pit or whatever, and then the sub itself being enclosed and covered in rubber, this thing would have burned quite well. Here's the other interesting image from the rear of the port side. I think I should know this: port and aft. Port is right, aft is left. Anyways, you can see it looks like a second storm shadow hit it on the port side, basically on a horizontal trajectory. So it wasn't a top down; it came in from the side, which is impressive if you think about the fact that when you look at how high up the dry dock is, right? It's almost up to the conning tower. It's almost halfway up the conning tower, I'd say. So you got to think this thing is probably, 12, 14 feet below the surface. And this storm shadow came in on what would probably be about a 45-degree angle and hit this thing deep inside what is, in effect, a large empty swimming pool. Very impressive. But yeah, like I said, this thing burned, and when the Russian MOD puts out statements like the Rostov-on-Don and the Minsk, the Rapucha class landing ship are going to be repaired and put back into service, this is not going to be repaired and put back into service. This is done. These cost $300 million to make. They don't have the technology to make these anymore, or at least right now. And the entire inside of this thing is basically a write-off. If they got a single usable part out of this, I'd be surprised, because this thing burned like a barbecue. Anyways, so there you go. We finally got our images of the Kilo class sub, which is awesome. In other not shocking yet shocking news, a Russian drone has been found in Tulanovo, Bulgaria. Not Romania, Bulgaria. This is the next NATO country that has basically had a drone strike on its territory. The drone has an undetonated explosive charge. Bulgaria is a NATO state. So here are some images of the drone. It doesn't look like a Shahed, because the Shahed have basically the delta wings. But this does look like something, and again, assuming these are accurate pictures, this does look like it crash landed and the engine caught on fire, something like that. But definitely the explosive charge did not go off, or this thing would be shrapnel. And this looks like it's right out on the water's edge. Yeah, very interesting. I don't know. It's not an Orlan. It's not a. I'm drawing a blank. Anyways, it's none of the known drones, the common drones that I know about, and it's definitely not a Shahed. So this could be a new Iranian one, or it could be a domestically produced Russian drone. I'm not sure. But where is this location, you ask? Well, it's right here. This is Bulgaria. Russia's over here. Crimea, the Donbass, the rest of Ukraine. This is Romania, where 3 drones struck right in this area. So now we've got a drone landing in Bulgaria. And you got to be asking yourself, even if they launched from Crimea, why would a drone end up going southwest to Bulgaria? And I'll tell you why. This is my personal opinion, and we've also had citizens of Romania and Bulgaria, or at least Romania, state this, that they've heard drones fly overhead. Because of the fact that this is Ukraine, because of the fact that Ukrainians have basically all their eyes, ears, radar, etc., excuse me, facing out this way, I personally believe this is Russia's attempt to basically circumvent or circumnavigate the radar in placements of Ukraine, and try to get around behind their air defense. So if they were to, for example, launch sort of long distance kamikaze drones across the Black Sea, and then skirt up across the coast of Bulgaria, Romania, etc., and come in behind and hit whatever target. Let's say it's Odessa, so they skirt like this way, come in and hit behind. Well, if every Gepard and Avenger and radar system that you can name is pointed out this way and looking out this way, and these kamikaze drones come in from behind, they might be able to catch the Ukrainians off guard. So that's why I think a drone like this basically ends up hundreds of kilometers and 2 countries away. So not great. And again, NATO's responses have been fairly tacit, I would say, if you want to put it wimpish, tacit, whatever. Romania has now stepped up and said they'll shoot anything that comes into their airspace or close to it, which is great. If Bulgaria and Poland can kind of do the same thing, maybe Moldova's not a NATO country, but if we can have basically like a group defense of these borders around here, starting here, if we can have a group defense, and basically be able to kind of watch Ukraine's backside as well as their own countries. One, you're protecting and helping Ukraine. Two, you're preventing what could be a serious international incident where one of these drones crash lands into a civilian population and take some lives. And then all of a sudden you've got Article 4 and Article 5 of NATO possibly being enacted, which I know NATO wants to avoid. So, why not get the air defense systems all loaded up in wherever you can and basically shoot these things down as soon as they approach any coast? That's the way to avoid an incident. Quickly going over the losses over the last 24 hours that Russia has suffered. 620 personnel not taking part anymore. 3 tanks, which is low. 6 APVs, which is low. 24 artillery pieces, which is kind of the norm, and that's crazy to say that's kind of the norm. 2 anti-aircraft warfare systems, which is fantastic. Heard that Sevastopol was hit again. Heard Crimea has been hit again, and there are rumors that there was an S-400 hit again, but I wasn't able to find anything definitive, so I didn't include it there. But this very well could be an S-400 in Crimea, which would be fantastic because they only have so many of them. They can't make more, and they have a huge coverage and a huge capability against large UAVs and drones, missiles, as well as planes. So taking one out is massive, and it's $600 million. 27 UAVs. The Ukrainians did fantastic against. Did well against the UAVs. 7 cruise missiles did fantastic against the cruise missiles, and 5 special equipment. No idea what that was, other than I saw 2 electronic towers taken out, monitoring towers, in ISR type towers. So that could have been. 2 of those could have been the 5, and that puts them over 900 special equipment. Special equipment runs the gamut from ISR, bridge laying, trench digging, etc. So it's all over the map. So it's very hard to get a cost to those, but there you go. Russia launched 17 cruise missiles versus Ukraine, and all 17 were down by air defense. So that's 100% of success rate on the cruise missiles, which is fantastic. Here's an air defense system. Going to find a cruise missile off in the dark. Actually, I'll play this. One sec. Let's go big screen. Give you the full. That could be a SAMT. Maybe NASAMS. I haven't seen too many NASAMS launches, so I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. Ігор, я вас вітаю.
Could be an Iris 2. Not Iris 2. An Iris also, an Iris T, which has a 100% hit rate. Anyways, so they did great against, they didn't get all of the Shahed and the suicide drones, but they did get all of the cruise missiles, which is fantastic. 17 cruise missiles, that could be $17 million, who knows, whatever that they just threw away, which is great. It's not great that it's happening, but it's great that the Ukrainians are so good. They've got, I think it's them and Israel is the best air defenses in the world. South Korea maybe, but we've never seen it tested, thank God. Big explosions in occupied Donetsk. This is Donetsk city in the Donetsk Oblast. At this moment, it looks like the administration building of the self-proclaimed DPR was struck. So basically, government building of the, Russian sympathizers breakaway government for the DPR has been struck. No confirmation of what was struck. What it was struck by, or damage, but it looks like a roof hit to me, or a top floor. Got smoke coming out of that window, and clearly the whole roof is engulfed. So we'll see if anything more comes out on that. This is the first image of a Volcano 155 millimeter high precision guided artillery munition in the service of the Ukraine Panzerhaubitze 2000 crew. The Panzerhaubitze 2000 is the really, really good German self-propelled SPG self-propelled gun, and I mean, this looks like it's in an apartment or something. It's actually in the SPG. It's got a lot of range, a lot of room inside. It's got a lot of range on its own. It can put a standard 155 millimeter artillery shell. I believe it's 28.8 kilometers, something like that, which or is it 28.8 miles? Anyways, outranges the Russian artillery already. These Volcano munitions are 70 to 80 kilometer range with a CEP, circular area probable, of 5 meters. So this basically can shoot this thing 80 kilometers, which is HIMARS like, and it can drop it in a 15-foot circle, which is astounding. In 2022, it was announced that 225 of these guided artillery shells would be delivered to Ukraine. So it was 2022. No idea if they got all 225. No idea if they got more in 2023. But it's a very, very cool munition. And I wanted to show you a video. It's not the greatest video. It's not like a task and purpose or something video. But let's take a look at the Volcano. Volcano is a family of directional BER and guided GLR ammunition for 76 millimeter, 127 millimeter naval guns, and 155 millimeter ground artillery systems. Here's the Panzerhaubitze. This represents the most advanced technology available today for precise ground artillery firing. The ammunition developed by the companies Leonardo and Dial Defense has a series of sophistication. I don't think I need to pause it. They're not really scrolling too fast here. Sophistication. That's not good English. The Volcano family offers much greater range than precision and is compatible with a variety of land and sea platforms, including 155 millimeter and 5-inch weapon systems to defeat air. Sorry, I missed that. And if you're listening along, I want to make sure I say that. To defeat air, land, and sea targets. I kind of guessed that's what it was, but I wanted to make sure. Okay, so watch this explosion too. So for information, 155 millimeter caliber Volcano is used for Army artillery, while 127 millimeter is used for the Navy. We don't care about the Navy on this one. Okay, so this is kind of one of those top attack cluster explosive munitions. The video that they're going to show here, you got to watch in the bottom left, but you're going to see about 12, 14 feet above the ground. It looks like maybe it explodes. And what... see that coverage? I really wish they ended with a ticker there, but it's incredible. It looks like it's covered close to a football field below it. The 155 millimeter caliber version can be fired from self-propelled howitzer, the field howitzers, the M777, the FH70, Caesar, M109, etc. So it can be fired from just about anything in country in Ukraine. Which is great, like one type of munition tied to one type of delivery system if possible. The 155 millimeter Volcano projectile is shaped like a stabilized sub-caliber fuselage with fins loaded with an insensitive explosive tungsten ring. The high explosive HE warhead can be used against vehicles, semi-armored vehicles, and infantry command posts. So basically, soft and medium targets. Think about the fact that you've now got DPICM cluster munitions. You've got cluster munitions from Turkey. You have the HIMARS. I always forget which one it is, but I think it's an M1 something. But anyways, the HIMARS Gimler that delivers tungsten fragments like over a massive period space. And then you've got this one as well, which kind of does the same sort of thing, which is an area denial. Version, I don't care about that. That's all the 7 version. I just care about any 155 stats. According to freely available information, this type of artillery projectile has a range of up to 70 kilometers metric accuracy. Other reports are that it hits over 80, and you can always basically assume to tack on if it leaks out that something's got a 70-kilometer range, typically with OPSEC and that sort of thing, and militaries will maybe float those, and it's much longer. So like a 70 might be a 90 or something. Anyways, in addition, the 155 GLR has a GPS targeting, including the exchange of ballistic data communications via radio frequency configuration. So it's got 2 ways of communicating. Steering itself. Actually, GPS targeting and ballistic data communications via radio frequency. So ballistic data communications. So basically, I don't know. Ballistic arc is like basically its trajectory, or ballistic is basically the ballistic that's on board. I'm not quite sure, but considering they kind of lump that in with the GPS targeting, I would assume that it's got 2 ways of communicating or steering itself, but maybe it's one is steering and one is communication on, setting the round off above a certain height. 155 GLR are characterized by excellent aerodynamics and a warhead with a fuse, which means that the projectile can be activated in 3 ways. Altimetric, which is the altitude, instantaneous, that's basically on impact, and then delayed action. So that's basically if you've got a fortified trench, that sort of thing, bunker, whatever, you can put a delayed action. So this thing will actually slam its way into the ground, and then like a 1-second delay or whatever until it gets into the bunker or fortification, and then it'll explode that way. So you can basically set this fuse to, go off above them, go off when it hits them, or go off below them. That looks like the base bleed round that went by before, by the way. The possibility of programming the final attack angle of projectile up to 90 degrees, that is vertical fall, against the target enables the maximization of both warhead effectiveness and guidance accuracy, as well as minimizing the likelihood of detection of a projectile in flight by the enemy's defense system. So certain like counter battery radars and certain air defense systems or whatever are programmed to recognize something as whether it's a cruise missile, a drone, an artillery shell, a rocket, whatever, and basically anticipate its flight path and impact area, that sort of thing, and then try to shoot it out of the sky. So if you have the ability to program this to change its angle of a vertical fall, you can basically help to fool the air defense systems, because this thing is not acting like a cruise missile, it's not acting like a rocket, it's not acting like an artillery shell, and the angle that it's coming in on is different than anything else out there. You decrease the likelihood of air defense system taking it out. More with the possibility. Nope, sorry, that was it. I thought there was a little more. The Volcano 155 ammunition, both BER and CLR, are being qualified according to the relevant standards under joints, Italian and German. That's not important. Sorry, I thought there was one more little nugget of information, but maybe not. Anyways, so there you go. Really cool munition, probably very expensive. I didn't go down the rabbit hole of the cost, but we actually have video confirmation of one of these being launched by the Panzerhaubitze 2000. Excellent. So people have been basically comparing the Taurus. Oh no, did I just... Oh no. 1 second. I shouldn't have clicked backwards on that. I want to get that one back. Just bear with me, please. Okay, here we go. Let me drag this over. Okay. So, people have been making the mistake, and I've kind of done it too, because I said it was in the same family or along the same lines with longer range. But people have been making the mistake saying that the German Taurus cruise missile is basically the exact version of the Scalp and Storm Shadow. It is not. This is those ones are like Porsches. This is the Rolls Royce. Okay, so the Taurus missile would indeed pose a significant challenge to Russian air defenses, far surpassing the capabilities of the Storm Shadow and Scalp missiles. The Taurus missile has often been mistakenly perceived as conceptual analog or identical to the Storm Shadow and Scalp. I always knew that it was different, it was more modern, and it would have a longer range, but I didn't know everything about it, and so that's on me as well. The Taurus is significantly more advanced and modern missile, capable of posing a substantial challenge to Russia's air defenses. The technical features of the guidance system and combat equipment of the Taurus missile remain highly relevant even after 20 years. One notable feature is its advanced noise immunity, primarily due to the open architecture of the additional optoelectronic module of the IBN, image-based navigation correlation system. That's a lot of words, but basically it's using maps and images as part of its navigation system. This module compares to the TV IR image of the terrain along the trajectory with preloaded terrain templates on the onboard drive. So basically, you're going to load this thing up with a bunch of maps, basically showing where what the lay of the ground is, the surface, the water level, if it's a lake or it's a sea or whatever that you're going over, the location and detailed schematics of bridges, power lines, buildings, etc. You're going to load all that stuff into this thing. So this can basically use those maps as its initial trajectory, its initial path, and it's going to then be looking at what is under it, in front of it, and comparing it to the internal maps to basically make sure that it is following exactly the path that was programmed for it, and it's avoiding any obstacles. So you could basically have this thing fly under or over a large bridge, between buildings, just over tree lines, under, over power lines, etc. As long as nothing has changed from the time the map was loaded up. But even if it has, this thing is going to compare the map in its internal memory banks to what it sees and will adjust accordingly if something has changed. This capability allows the missile to maintain an acceptable trajectory even without GPS correlation module. So the Russians are renowned for trying to jam GPS signals in sensitive areas. So this thing basically doesn't need the GPS. You can shut it off. The IBN module, together with the advanced inertial navigation module based on laser gyroscopes located under the optically transparent turret fairing at the front of the rocket fuselage, basically, so it's got a glass case on the front, ensures accurate navigation. The terrain information obtained by the TRN, Terrain Reference Navigation Radar Altimeter, is also integrated with the data. So a couple of different points of data, almost like internal triangulation. As a result, the missile behaves as if it is being guided by TV imagery, but relies on its own terrain database. In contrast, the guidance systems of the Storm Shadow and the Scalp BG cruise missile rely solely on the infrared seekers on the target to target the thermal signatures of objects in the terminal stage of the flight trajectories. These infrared sensors are initially protected by aerodynamic fairings until the distance between the missile and the target is reduced to 15 to 10 kilometers. So at that point, they're basically become susceptible to jamming. Unlike the Taurus, the Storm Shadow and Scalp EG lack optoelectronic correlation modules for their mid-course trajectory. Consequently, they can only maintain their trajectory in challenging jamming environments by relying on initial navigation units with a wider margin of error. Still amazing, but another significant aspect is the inclusion of the Taurus HPM, high power microwave modification within the range of tactical missiles equipped with Taurus modular equipment. The HPM variant is equipped with a powerful microwave electromagnetic pulse generator designed to disable the electronic components of multifunctional radars, anti-aircraft missile systems, tactical communication and relaying radio relay stations, electronic warfare, and electronic intelligence systems within a radius of several hundred meters or even several kilometers. This thing basically goes in and blasts all of the air defense systems, radars, eyes, etc. on its own as it's approaching. It's basically a jammer, a destroyer, all in one. This means the radar can be radar can be disabled even if the microwave equipment is activated outside the radiation pattern of the antenna array. So even if it's on the spectrum that it doesn't normally cover, it can still be destroyed. The Russians have not faced this capability before. Additionally, the Taurus missile can be ground launched. So important. You don't need an Su-24 flanker to fly up and risk itself to launch this thing. You can hook this thing up set this thing up on a truck and launch it from a truck. If supplied, the Taurus missile would certainly pose a significant challenge for the Russian air defenses. However, considering its limited stockpiles ranging from 150 to 300, it's unlikely to significantly alter the balance of the battlefield in Ukraine, where a greater number of armored vehicles may be necessary. This is no game changer. This is no game changer, but the Taurus is a significant weapon for the Ukrainian armed forces. So you're not going to have 2,000 of these and basically take out every single bridge, railway junction, ground line of communication, some high value mechanized targets, etc. That's not what these are for. This thing will basically take out the Kerch Bridge, and you can fire 3 of them, and you can take out both road spans and the railway span, and it's going to guaranteed hit. Nothing is stopping this. So, do the Ukrainians want to get their hands on 75 of these, half the stockpile, 2/3 of the stockpile, 1/3 of the stockpile, whatever, and be able to take out all of the major, choke points and railway crossings, that sort of thing, and maybe a couple of high-value ships? Absolutely. Can anything stop this? No. There's nothing on the market that can stop this. Nothing on the Russian market that can stop this. So that's why the Taurus is constantly being asked for, and that's why probably the German government is hesitant to hand it over. It's got some technologies on board that the Russians have not yet captured or dealt with, and they don't probably want them to be up in their game. But I don't think the Russians are in an R&D standpoint right now where they're going to take a Taurus, the scrap pieces of it, and basically build something to counter it in the near future. And this technology is 20 years old. So hand over 150 and watch the Kerch Bridge go bye-bye. Moscow burning. Always got to have a little Moscow burning. Big black Pavovna, which I think is a cloud. But anyways, right now there's a large fire in the northeast of Moscow in the northern district. It's basically in the Tech City area again. That looks like a brush fire to me. Like, I don't know what that was. But it's black. So it almost looks like something kind of like the sub burning, but it almost looked like something black, rubber, or whatever was coating this, or maybe it was a fuel truck that was blown up and the fuel spread and then it's burning like that. I'm not sure. Let me see if anybody's actually put that in yet. No comments on that. A couple more. So speaking of the special equipment, so this is basically a Ukrainian FPV drone. To me, it's almost like it's messing with this. Like it knows that the Russians are watching and it kind of buzzes the tower like Tom Cruise and then basically says, hey, almost gives it a kiss, then backs up and says, I'm going to take you out now. So watch the behavior of this FPV. It's almost like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? Guess what's going to happen? Boom. Backs up, lets it see it, and then takes the eyes out. Another buzz in the tower. Make sure it's good. Lines it up. See what it does? It just kind of says, hey, I really think he's trolling him. Because it didn't have to zoom in and back up. I mean, he could have been being very careful, but to me, that guy, girl, whatever, they're having fun with the Russians. Almost done here. So a fantastic interview by Zelenskyy on 60 Minutes last night. This is a critical point made by Zelenskyy. Ukraine's own public opinion is completely overlooked by those pushing. Excuse me, one sec. By those pushing for an end to the conflict because continuing it would lead to, quote, more suffering. They refuse to see Ukraine and Ukrainians as sovereign actors who can make decisions as to what they consider acceptable or not. And that is such a valuable point because a lot of people, peaceniks, etc., will say, you need to stop the fighting in Ukraine, stop the suffering or whatever. But if you look at the polling, it's like 90% want to continue their struggle against Russia. The Ukrainian people are in charge, and the Ukrainian people want this to continue. So you can sit in your armchair somewhere and say, "Oh, I just want the suffering to stop." The Ukrainians would vote Zelenskyy out of office, remove him from office if he tried to stop the war now and settle for peace. They want to continue. In doing so, the self-portrayed supporters of peace are deliberately or not aligning themselves with Russia's position, which is that Ukraine does not exist, but it does. And their president can do no less than act upon the people's will, which is what the leader of a democratic government does.
Can you give up any part of Ukraine for peace?
Ні.
No.
No. This is our territory. You must have it all, including Crimea.
Сьогодні ми з вами, ви мені про це сказали, ви бачили, я нагороджував людей.
Today, you and I, you said it to me. You saw me awarding people medals. Well, today is a day like that. A week ago, I gave awards to parents of soldiers who have been killed. There were 24 families of the dead. There was a woman, she was with 3 children. There were parents, very old, they could barely walk, and they had had only one son. One of the women was pregnant. She arrived holding a baby in her arms, and she was pregnant. And that baby will never see. What should I tell them? That all of them died so that we could say, it's okay, Russia, you can take it all.
Це складна місія. Розумієте, да? Нагороджувати.
It's a difficult job. You understand me, right? Giving awards to people whose faces show their whole world has collapsed. And all I can give them,
Це перемога.
is victory. Can you?
Wow. The passion that he has in his eyes and his face and his voice and his words. I truly, truly love that man. I think he's an iconoclast. He is a man of the ages. He is Churchillian, as people say. I think he puts maybe Churchill to shame. I think that I don't know of another time, other than maybe when countries were being formed, etc., I don't know. And Churchill was amazing. I'm not taking anything away from him. And, a lot of leaders for the West were amazing at that time. But I can't think of another leader at another time that was so perfect for their country in the time that they needed them. Zelenskyy was not a popular politician on February 23rd of 2022. He was not a popular politician shortly after he got elected. His visits to the White House, etc., Russia and others rolling over him a bit. It didn't, and he was basically hand out, trying to do something good for his country and keep from being invaded again. The moment that he spoke those words, I need ammunition, I don't need a ride, his spine was infused with adamantium. He became the leader that Ukraine wanted, and he basically said, live or die, I'm staying in Kyiv and I'm leading my country. And he's had almost no missteps since then. And he's basically arm twisted and cajoled and begged and pleaded and hugged and whatever, every single thing that he can get out of the entire world, and then goes back and asks them for more. He says, thank you, please sir, may I have another? And he keeps on going. And he does whatever it takes for his country. And a lot of leaders would have left on February 24th and got the hell out of Dodge. In fact, 90% of them would. They would have tried to govern from afar and let their country fall. He said, I'm staying, and that gave his fighters and his people the intestinal fortitude to do the same. He gets me. Speaking of which, second last thing I want to show you. Our warriors are heroes, the front line. I'm proud of each and every one of them, and I'm grateful to each brigade for its strength. And Zelenskyy will visit any battlefield, anywhere, anytime, to recognize these fighters, these heroes, those that are with us and those that aren't. That's a leader. No platform shoes. No ego. Front line, listening. Most of these video clips, he's listening. He's not talking.
Завдяки вам точно залишиться
Thanks
Україна.
to you all.
Це дуже
Ukraine will
важливо.
definitely survive, and this is
Всі
very
майбутні
important for all future
України.
generations.
Служу українському народу.
Якщо можна, нам 3 параметри. Писати.
Tell me you wouldn't go to war for that guy, eh? Sorry, well. All right, so let's finish on a high note. That was high. That was a high note. That was a good note. But let's finish on a funny note. This beaver was orphaned and rescued as a newborn. Watch its incredible instinct to build a dam, even though it's never seen its parents build one. Finally got some lumber. And then he tamps it down to make sure it's waterproof. Oh my goodness. Oh, you gotta have an octopus, obviously. Gotta stop the water. God love these people for adopting this. Hopefully it doesn't. Oh, you gotta flip flop. Where's this gonna go? Let me see. That looks right. And there we go. We've got the dam. That's it. Please subscribe. Please like. Please share. And please tell someone you love them. Slava Ukraini.